Sure. We go home, and I take out my spoon, and I dig right into it right off the bat. Years later, once I learned English, I realized, wait, this is Nutella. I take my first spoon, I bite right into it, and I was like, oh my, I love this. What is this? All of a sudden, I'm like, I gotta have more of this. I take the second bite, and I realize the quality is different than compared to M&M or any other chocolate I've ever had. What is this? I gotta have more. 10 minutes go by, the whole jar by myself, complete, done. And I was like, that was the day I realized chocolate, I think I'm in love with it. It's my thing. Then now when I go back to my mom's house, she's always like, "Chocolatura, chocolatura." She's always saying, he wants chocolate, just give him chocolate. I agree with her. I do love chocolate. But as Terry once stated, a cartoonist and a novelist, American novelist once stated, that there is a rule, right? There's a chocolate 12-step rule. The rule states that within every 12 step, you must always have a chocolate with you. The reason why I tell you I apply that rule with me everywhere I go is wherever I go, I always carry my Nutella. And I carry my spoon with me too, just in case I need to take a spoon bite. So again, my name is Sheik. This is Tessa. This is Diana. This is Anjman. And now we're going to move on to our schedule, what we have planned today. In our schedule, we're going to go through our executive summary. Then we'll talk a little bit about our premium recommendations. Then we're going to move on to some of our financials. And lastly, we'll wrap things up and leave it for questions. Now I'll pass it on to Diana.
Thank you, Sheik. So for executive summary, we are addressing 3 things: our problem statement, the opportunity, and our solution. Currently, Ferrero Group is facing an unstable supply of hazelnuts globally, and this is due to extreme weather conditions in Turkey. Turkey is the leading producer and exporter of hazelnuts, therefore extreme weather conditions is highly detrimental to the hazelnut crop, and it results in shortages. The opportunity that we have to address here is, how can we secure our supply of hazelnuts in Turkey? Therefore, our recommendation is to backward integrate by acquiring Olten Group and minimizing our operating efficiencies as we see it. Therefore, we can maximize our supply and reduce our lead times. Now I'll pass it off to Tessa to talk further about our situation analysis.
Thank you, Diana. So as a result of the frost in Turkey, this affected the entire global supply chain. Prices increased all around the world for hazelnut. In Turkey, they increased by 60%. Turkey is a key supplier of Ferrero and where they get their hazelnut supply. And in the year of 2014, when this frost took place, they also experienced higher operating expenses than normal, and they also had a -2 profit before taxes in 2014. However, despite what was happening in the back end, they were still experiencing increased global sales around the world. We attribute this success to 3 core competencies that Ferrero Group has. One, they have their own in-house technology proprietary systems that they apply to their 22 manufacturing plants currently, which is attributed to their flawless execution of their current products that they produce to the marketplace. Also, they are very heavily invested in innovation. They are very strategic about the products that they give out to the marketplace, and as a result, they have very high brand equity. It is undeniable the success they have and their brand loyalty. Their customers do not like to switch over to different brands, and they are very invested in what they're doing. This analysis has given our recommendation, and we are very confident that acquiring the Olten Group will be a high success for Ferrero. We believe 3 benefits will come out of this. The first benefit that we perceive is that they will be able to apply and leverage their internal competencies of their in-house technology and their engineering team to reduce the cost and the waste out of the current process within the Olten Group. We did our own process mapping, and we looked into some of the redundancies that already exist. For example, instead of having one cleaning batch, they send 2 different batches to the cleaning. This is inefficient, and they're running 2 machines at the same time, but they could only run 1. The same is true for their inspection. They don't need to have 2 separate inspections when they can run that batch through together. We also found opportunities to increase lead time. There are opportunities for the production flows to start at the same time so the end customer ultimately gets their products faster. This is how we envision how the process could look, but we are very confident in Ferrero and their engineering team and their supply team to come up with even more innovations, eliminating costs even further, having higher specs, And as a result, their corporate social responsibility image will also increase, which is very important to the consumer group as well. And now I will pass it on. Oh, sorry. I'm also going to talk about the second benefit. So also, they will be closer to their farmers. They're going to take out this middleman in Turkey, which is the Olten Group. We believe this is very advantageous because Ferrero is more invested in the success of their farmers than the Olten Group is, because they are that customer. Olten is just doing the production in the meantime. Also, the farmers, it will be a win-win partnership for both, because if Ferrero is more invested in what the farmers are doing, then the farmers will be able to get better advice from Ferrero. So we see this as a win-win partnership. We see Turkey farmers and local suppliers being able to produce better crop outputs in the future. Now I will pass on to the third benefit, Lachman.
Thank you, Tessa. The third benefit, and in my opinion, the most important benefit of acquiring the Olten Group is increasing the responsiveness of the supply chain. And there are two aspects that I will specifically address while increasing the responsiveness. The first aspect is tackling demand. Now, demand for Ferrero products are very seasonal, and as you can see, for example, February is Nutella Day, which is February 5th. So demand for Nutella products is higher in February, obviously, of course, accompanied with Valentine's Day. And another example is Easter, which is in April. So the demand for Kinder Easter egg products is even higher, which shows the basically changing demand in Ferrero products, which is very important when acquiring the Olten Group. We will decrease the idea of basically having two entities doing the customer order processing and just changing into one, which will eventually, in the long run, decrease the lead time, as discussed by Tessa, and increase the overall responsiveness. The second aspect of increasing responsiveness is addressing the supply. Now, the supply for hazelnuts is a very tricky concept. As you can see, every 2-3 years, the temperature falls down significantly, which unfortunately attacks the hazelnuts in a negative way, which causes the supply of overall hazelnuts to decrease. Now, this usually happens in March when temperature is roughly 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And to address this, we will increase, by acquiring the Olten Group, we'll basically have better processing schedules, better integrated schedule, and basically have better forecasting methods, because the Ferrero Group is, in fact, a corporate conglomerate, and they can use their learning curve effects, and they can use their increased expertise in this area to address the supply portion. Now I'll pass this on to
Thank you, Amish. Now we're going to look at how all these ideas, right? How can we financially make these feasible? How can we actually quantify some of these ideas? First, we're going to look at our first main goal priority is obviously to acquire Olten. And before we go to assumptions, when you have a plantation, some of the things that go around the plantation is going through the hired labor and some of the taxes, the operations, and taking all that quantifying numbers into consideration. So we came up with 3 key assumptions that will lead us to overall come up with our big pictures in terms of figuring out what our NPV is and what our ROI is. In our indexes, you can follow through in terms of the hard numbers and how we plugged in some of those numbers. But as you can see, the key assumption is the acquisition of Olten Group, which we made was for $400 million in 2014. Then the second assumption was the cost to run a plantation was about $1,429. And the third thing was that the revenue accumulated based on the information that we received was about $350 million in 2014. So we accumulated some of those numbers and plugged it in. As we move on to the next slide, it shows that our NPV is a positive NPV of 804,860. We calculated those numbers and come up with a positive ROI of 248%. We realized that this was a positive thing to take in terms of our project and why some of these numbers financially make sense for us in terms of why we should go ahead and actually continue with this project. Now I'm going to pass it on to Diana, and she's going to tell us how we're going to actually make this timeline and implement actually work.
Thank you, Sheikh. So for our implementation process, after factoring in all of our considerations and key assumptions, we approximate that this is going to take about 2 years. In our first year, what we want to accomplish is discussing acquisition costs with Olten Group, and by the end of the year 2014, we want to acquire Olten Group. Next, we want to address the inefficiencies that we currently see in the hazelnut process. So we want to implement a DMAIC. In doing so, we want to select our project team and set a project deadline, which ranges from 2 to 6 months. We'll create an as-is map to identify where the redundancies are, and then with our engineering team our innovation team, and our supply chain team, we'll be able to analyze and see where value-added steps are and where we can remove them. With that being said, we'll be able to develop a should-be map, which we can provide to senior management, and once we get their approval on it, we'll move forward with our implementation, which is going to be ongoing because once we implement it, we'll have to train employees on the new processes, as well as evaluate the entire performance, and then adjust as necessary. Now I'll pass it off to Antony to talk about our potential risks.
Although our plan is amazing, and I'm sure you guys all believe that, there are two primary risks in this whole plan. The first risk is losing Alton Group customers. As Ferrero acquires this group, what will happen is that the customers of Alton Group, which are competitors of the Ferrero Group, will actually think about, well, it's a very good idea to do business with them now because they might have maybe some data privacy issues, some secrecy issues. So to address this risk, our mitigation strategy is creating a contractual agreement, basically stating that the Ferrero Group will take its responsibilities seriously and will ethically conduct its business agreements with the Alton Group and its customers. The second risk is, which is a very huge one as well, is the culture clash. Now, to address the culture clash, our overall idea is to have a change management strategy. We understand that the Alton Group employees and the Ferrero Group employees may not have the same culture, may not have the same values, may not have the same core competencies that they're used to. But to address this, we'll have a very integrated strategy. We'll tell the employees that it is okay to take a breather, we understand they're going through a rough time, and we will implement this process very feasibly and appropriately. I'll pass this on to Sean. Thank you.
Ferrero's main slogan in when they advertise all their products is share something, right? This key concept of just slogan, share something, implies to our presentation today and what we did. Let me share and recap some of the things we did. The first thing is we suggested that our recommendation is that we acquire Alton. From that umbrella, we discussed how are we going to reduce costs. Right, we talked about, we showed you the process map, but what the process map should be in terms of our way of reducing costs. Then we moved on and talking about our end consumers and talking about our backward integration. Lastly, we closed up and talking about how is this going to financially make sense. How are these steps going to be feasibly in terms of quantifying some of these numbers? So I want to leave you one last thing. Share something. Think about it. Thank you for your time. We'll leave you up for questions.
Can you tell me about some of the alternative recommendations you considered?
Yes, I'll let Tess discuss it.
Well, we considered just working with their farmers exclusively and not even looking into acquiring the Alton Group, but instead going directly to their farmers and thinking, how can we work with you and how can we help you bring down your prices overall for the general hazelnut supply? However, what we found out and why we didn't go with this recommendation was because the economic curve is already balancing itself out. So since the hazelnut prices went up by 60%, now more farmers are entering the market. So you have increased farmers coming in because they find this is a very alluring, very profitable market for them, and as a result, the prices are naturally going down due to the increased competition. So we don't see the Ferrero Group's energy being best applied in this market space that's more naturally going to work itself out, and we see it more applied with working with the processes because they have better control over that, and that's where their core competencies are better aligned as well.
Thank you.
What sort of time period did you use for your NPV and ROI calculation?
Yes, we used a 5-year projection plan to figure out the cost-benefit analysis in terms of making key assumptions. And so then we took the key assumptions and plugged in the numbers and just used that 5 because we knew that our first initial investment was $400 million in 2014.
To add on to Sheik, basically the NPV was obtained through a 5-year projection, and because of that, the NPV seems to be quite a bit low for what it is actually the number. So as time will increase, the NPV will automatically naturally increase as well.
How do you think Hershey's going to respond to your acquisition with Alton?
That's it.
Yeah, I'll let Deanna.
Yeah, so we actually did some research with Hershey, and Hershey wanted to enter more into the global market. So what they're trying to do is create partnerships with like Nestle in order to compete with groups like Ferrero. We do see that there's going to be a bit of hesitation, and there will be kind of like a negative reaction because now we are acquiring the largest supplier, which accounts for 75% of the supply. But again, that's why we want to implement our confidentiality agreements. That way, the current customer base that Olten Group works with is not ruined. So I'm pretty sure our competitors such as Hershey and Nestle, they do get supply from Turkey and from Olten Group. And so the contracts is how we would be able to mitigate that issue.
How do you think the farmers at Ultimate Group will react to this acquisition? How do you plan for it?
I can take this question. We actually we talked about this and we discussed, and it can go back to our risks. And the main risk is obviously in the change management process or the culture clash. And although there is a culture clash between Alton Group and the Ferrera Group, we understand that our idea is basically helping the farmers and helping them throughout this whole process, and basically holding their hand throughout the way and then telling them that's all, it's gonna be all right, and we're there to support you, to provide you feedback, to help you throughout this whole process. And I believe Tess also can further elaborate on the whole idea of sustainable procurement for farmers.
A lot of the farmers in Turkey, they're small families and they don't have the resources that Ferrero has or even that the Olten Group has, but we believe Ferrero can even add further resources. Ferrero is dedicated to their quality, and they have that strong brand following that believes in that quality, and we believe that the farmers are also going to believe in Ferrero's support because they know Ferrero's competitive place is quality, and that's what they want, and that's what they expect out of their farmers, but they are going to help them achieve that. And I think that is the goal of both the small farmers that lack the resources and the goal of Ferrero. So in that regard, we really strongly believe that this will be a strategic partnership going forward, and they'll be able to work together from the personal insight from the farmers, and then the innovation and the R&D and the in-house proprietary systems that Ferrero has to offer to come up with better data, better algorithms, and better future technology to help with their crop.
Do you guys consider any alternatives outside of Turkey?
We did look into their, yeah, the map. So we recognize that Turkey is not the only place that supports hazelnut supply, and they also get hazelnut supply from 5 other places in the world. Mainly, those are their main suppliers here mapped, and we absolutely do not want to cut off these supplies, because if there is a frost again, that's Mother Nature, and no matter how much you try to plan for the future, Mother Nature is still going to work in mysterious ways. So having more diversity is important, and another key factor is that they want to be close to their markets. So when they're able to get hazelnut supplies from different areas, then they also have faster lead times to get to their customers, and they understand that space better, and that's one of the things that they've been able to leverage thus far to be successful in their global expansion, and we absolutely do not want to cut that off. We just want to make Turkey even stronger since they are the main output of hazelnuts.
If I may add to Tessa, the reason why we concentrate on Turkey is basically the biggest bang for the buck. And we understand that concentrating on other suppliers can be a very huge logistical nightmare, almost by trying to get these few supplies from different countries. And concentrating all our resources in one entity is a little riskier maneuver, but we do have the idea of basically having backup storage or backup inventory to basically address this problem. And just to further elaborate, there were other ideas we were discussing when it comes to inventory costs, as the average life for a hazelnut is 1 year through refrigeration. But here's the catch. But when there's a frost in Turkey, that's that cold, you don't need a refrigeration unit, so you save money on that, for example. So you're basically extending the life from 4 to 6 months of a hazelnut storage capacity to 1 year.
And also to just kind of support your findings there, in the case it does state that we do, Ferrero Group does have a great relationship right now with Olten Group, and Ferrero accounts for 70% of Olten Group's sales. So that's why we see that this is more of a lucrative position to be in to acquire Olten, but we will still work with other suppliers in other regional areas.
Any other question, Kevin? Well, if that's all, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.